All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Doris Strong. I am a member of the Make a Difference Youth Foundation, and I am a senior in high school. And today, my workshop will be focusing on the college selection process. So, to begin, before going into the specifics of selecting colleges and the actual process, I just wanted to go through a general timeline that you guys don't have to specifically stick to completely, but it may be a good idea to just have a general plan for what you're going to do around 2 years before leading up to going to college. So a lot is going to be happening within junior and senior year, and before you know it, it's all going to catch up to you, and you're going to be bombarded with all of these assignments and things that you have to get done for college applications, that you'll just be caught up in it and you will be very stressed. So it's very good to have a timeline or at least a plan ahead of time. So to start, the summer before junior year, begin thinking about college. It definitely comes sooner than you think. Junior year is known to be one of the hardest, if not the hardest years of high school. So you definitely want to expect a much bigger workload than in freshman or sophomore year. And with all of the assignments and extracurricular activities and other commitments in your daily lives, everything will come rushing to you at once in senior year. So you really want to start kind of planning and proportioning your time allocated to thinking about college and just begin thinking about the prospect of it. Another thing is to prep for standardized tests. So most colleges are test optional for the following years, and some are even test optional indefinitely. So standardized tests are definitely not a mandatory part of your application anymore. However, it's still worth trying for because it could really add to your application if you do well on it on the ACT or the ACT. If you do well, it could really add to your application and be something that makes you stand out. Of course, if you're prepping for it and you realize that you're not really good at taking standardized tests, you will have the option of not submitting it and it won't hurt your application. So that's definitely an advantage to this new system. Moving on to the beginning or the fall of junior year. So you want to continue thinking about college and go a bit deeper with your college research. So maybe in the summer before junior year, you're kind of just thinking about it and kind of thinking about your dream school and your safety schools and just having a broad outlook on what colleges you may be interested in and what colleges you're definitely going to be applying to. However, in the fall of junior year, you may want to dive deeper into maybe more obscure colleges that you've heard of, but you don't really know anything about that may be a good fit for you. You definitely want to be doing a lot of college research because this is an institution that you're attending for 4 years or more of your life. So you don't want to be spending 4 years of your life at a place where you're not going to be happy. So college research is definitely very important, and that's why you want to start really early in the fall of your junior year or around the beginning of your junior year. Another thing is to take your SAT and ACT ASAP, and that goes along with the standardized tests that I mentioned earlier. So taking your SAT and ACT in the fall of junior is a good idea because you will get it out of the way and you won't have to worry about it ever again. Once you get your score, you can just put it on your college application if you wish to, and you'll be done of that portion forever. So I think I definitely recommend to get it out of the way just so you won't have to worry about the more technical aspects. I took my SAT in October of my junior year, and I was actually going to plan to take it in August before junior year, but it was canceled due to COVID-19. So you definitely want to plan ahead with everything you're doing because you don't know what obstacles you may run into. For example, I registered for the August, October, and November SATs just to make sure that I would be able to get a spot because I knew that COVID was a thing and many college testing sites were getting canceled and closed on the day. So, like I said, colleges are test optional, but it's definitely a good idea to just take a try at this and see if this is your thing, because if it is, it will really add to your application. Then throughout your junior year, you just want to continue researching your colleges. And a big thing with this is that you're maintaining your research. You're not researching maybe in the beginning and then not worrying about it until the end. Because obviously you research in the beginning, you have a big break in the middle, and then at the end you'll be like, oh, I forgot to do all of this research and now I'm going to have to cram. Because by the end of your junior year, you're going to be applying to colleges towards the end of summer and then early into senior year, because the common application opens on August 1st, and that's directly in the middle of your summer before senior year. So you really want to be taking that time during your junior year to continue researching these colleges and kind of getting a set list of the institutions that you may want to attend. So the summer before senior year, you want to narrow down your college list to 10 to 20 schools. And this is obviously not a very restricted number of schools. Some people apply to 2 or 3, some people apply to 8 or 9, some people apply to 25 or more. So it all depends on what you're comfortable with and the workload that you think you will be able to kind of accommodate within to your schedule. So along with narrowing down your college list, you also want to be attending, if you can, college visits and just visiting campuses, because a big part of your experience will be the campus that you're living on. If the environment you're in is not a place where you think you'll feel comfortable and you will thrive in, you will not thrive in college. Obviously, campus is not the most important aspect of choosing an institution, but it is definitely part of it. So you want to be making an effort to kind of visit colleges that you're not sure if you want to attend, and maybe if you go there, you'll think the environment is perfect for you and it'll kind of solidify your opinion on the school. Along with narrowing down your college list, you want to begin brainstorming and writing the Common App essay. As I said earlier, the Common App opens on August 1st. So as soon as it opens, or even maybe a little bit before it opens, you want to begin brainstorming and writing it. And there isn't really a set way to do this because the Common App essay is basically an essay about your life. But a good way to start is to kind of just list everything that's ever happened in your life that has changed you significantly in some way or has impacted you significantly in some way. Obviously, the topic that you're writing on your Common App essay has to be something rather significant. It can't just be like, oh, I went out for lunch with my family. Of course, it has to be something that has made an impact on you and you have something to say about it. You have your own opinions to say about it, and it will reveal something about your personality and your character that will add to your application, and that college admissions officers will see and be like, wow, they really fit our school. They really fit the values that we have in our school, and we want to accept her. The Common App essay, I believe now, is probably one of the most important things that determine your college decision. Obviously, there are a lot of aspects that determine that, but with the cancellation of standardized tests and other more technical aspects of your application, your essays are going to be very important. And so you really want to be revealing something that you want your admissions officers to know within these essays. So with the Common App essay, you also want to begin writing your supplemental essays ASAP, because some college essay prompts come out as early as April. I know that for Georgetown, which is a school that I'm applying to, as soon as you sign up for an account, they will send you the application. So since Georgetown is not affiliated with the Common App, you will receive your application as early as April. So you have an ample amount of time to start, and because you have that ability to start earlier, you want to start as early as possible, because towards the end, you're going to have a lot of colleges that are due in like January or like the end of December, and you're going to be cramming all of those. So you don't want to be cramming ones that you have the opportunity to start earlier in for later. And as I said on the slide, you want to get started ASAP so you're not overflowed when all essay prompts are released. Another thing you want to do is create scholarship accounts. And of course, the Common App account when it opens. I know that I created my Common App account in June. I don't actually recommend that because all of the essay prompts and all of the factors within the Common App were still adjusted to the previous college year, but I was just not informed. But my information did carry over when August 1st came around and all of the prompts refreshed. So if you want to get a head start, be my guest. It won't detract from anything. For scholarships, many scholarships are embedded within the Common App for schools, and for some scholarships are all different. Some scholarships don't require you to write an additional essays, some do. Some are some require you to create a whole other account on a different website as a whole. So that's what I mean by creating these scholarship accounts. You want to be researching scholarships along with the schools that you're potentially interested in attending, and then you want to be creating those accounts if applicable. So the end of summer before senior year. This is where kind of the ball gets rolling. So at this point, you should have at least a completed draft of your Common App essay. Of course, it doesn't have to be perfect, but you definitely want to at least get a first draft out so you know broadly what you're going to be saying and the ideas that you want to put in it. You should have a completed draft of most of your supplemental essays due by November 1st. So obviously, there are many different due dates for colleges, but normally the earliest due date is November 1st for some early action and early decision schools. There is one October 15th deadline for UNC Chapel Hill, which is the University of North Carolina. Their early action due date is October 15th. So if you're planning on applying to UNC early action, you want to be starting even earlier. I know a couple people within my school that were planning to apply early action but ended up not doing it because they realized they didn't have enough time. So that's why starting in the summer and starting ahead is very important. So I added a little note here because I know the above may seem like a lot of work to do over the summer, but in reality, it won't take too much time if you set your mind to it. I know this because I went through this process myself over the summer, and even though I was writing all of these essays and figuring out everything on my college application before school started, I still had a lot of time to have fun, hang out with friends, go on vacations, everything like that. So if you really set your mind to it, writing an essay, yes, takes a lot of time, takes a lot of thought and energy, but if you kind of distribute your time evenly and try not to get distracted, it really won't take up so much of your time that you feel like all you're doing is college applications and you're not making the most out of your summer, because that's obviously not what we want as high school seniors, basically. Finally, the fall to winter of senior year. You want to be finishing your essays because, of course, the last college apps are kind of due beginning of January, but most are definitely due before that due date. January due dates are mostly only for regular decisions, and I feel like before I started the college application process, I thought most schools would be schools that I'm regular decisioning to, but in reality, that is not the case because over half the schools that I applied to or am applying to are not regular decision. I either early action for them, or I was applying to a specific program that had an earlier due date, or I early decisioned, obviously, to only one school. You want to manage teacher recommendations and make sure to keep in contact with your guidance counselor constantly. Don't be shy because this is important for your future, so you want to reach out as much as you need. So the role of a guidance counselor within a school is to help guide you, and one part of guiding you is definitely through the college application process. So you want to make sure that your counselor is actually helping you. I know that in my school, my counselor was very busy during the beginning months where kind of college apps were starting to be due, and a lot of the students within my school were getting frustrated because they weren't receiving any of the help that they needed on their college applications. So you really want to make sure that you're pushing your counselors and you're pushing your teachers. And you may feel like you seem annoying, and you might, but this is important for you. So you really want to make sure that you're reminding them that you care about this and that you want to get this right, so you need their help. And finally, at the end, you want to weight your decisions. So step 1 is researching schools. So there are many factors to consider when researching schools, and I've listed a couple here. First is the size of the school. So you want to be asking yourself, Are you looking for a public university with tens of thousands of students or a private university with only 1,000? What is the size that you're looking for? So I know that my high school was very small, and that's something that I've definitely grown comfortable with and something that I really love about my school. So for the schools that I applied to, I definitely applied to public universities that were much larger, but I was also looking at smaller universities that maybe only had around 3 to 4,000 or even 1,000 students, because that's just the environment that I'm comfortable with and that I'm used to. Maybe you went to a public high school and you really loved it, so you want to go to a public university with 30,000 students. Or maybe you went to a small school like me and you didn't like it, so you also want to go to a big school. It all depends on your preferences, but the size of the school is definitely something you want to consider, because as I said, you want an environment that you think you will thrive in and that you think you will love. And depending on the number of students within the campus, that will really affect the way that you feel about your environment. Another factor to consider is your intended major. So while every university or college offers a multitude of intended majors for prospective students, some are more well known for a specific major than others. Of course, it's college, so you're free to major in whatever you like, but there are definitely some colleges that are more known to build better students in specific majors than others. So I've listed a couple examples. Harvard is known for med or law. They have the #1 med school. I'm not really sure about law, but it's up there. And so if you're looking to pursue a profession in medicine or law, you may want to consider Harvard instead of maybe Yale, which is more known for the social sciences or politics. So more factors to consider include your chance of getting it. So there are stakes when applying to a college, because applying for college isn't cheap at all, because the cost of applying to some colleges goes up to $90. So if you're applying for 10 schools, and obviously not all application fees are $90, but you could be paying a maximum of around $900 just for applications. So you really want to be balancing how well you think your chance of getting in is, how much you want to go there, and how much money you're willing to pay to even apply for the school, because sometimes it just won't be worth it. Obviously, it's important to apply for reach schools, but in consideration of the fact that there is still a slim chance you will be accepted. So obviously, reach schools are definitely something that everyone applies to. Definitely the most amount of schools are like reach schools. But you have to understand that reach schools are reach schools for a reason, and that's because there's so many qualified applicants are applying to the school, and the acceptance rate is very low. So you want to be able to balance how much you want to go to school with how much you're willing to pay for it. Another thing that goes along with the price is the cost of tuition. So as I said, it's important to find a balance between cost and if that cost is worth it. You want to consider scholarships and financial aid very seriously, because tuition goes up every year, and at this point, it's getting a little bit ridiculous in my opinion, but college is so expensive, and normally the higher ranked a college is, the more expensive it is. So you really want to be able to define that balance. So, narrowing down the choices. On average, students apply for around 10 colleges or universities, but that number definitely varies. As I said, I'm applying for 16 schools, and that's just because I feel like there are 16 schools that I genuinely would love to attend. And it also may have to do with your environment. I know that in my school, students are very competitive, and some students are applying for 25 schools because they want to try for as many reach schools as possible to see if they can get in as many good schools as possible. I personally would not recommend that, because as I said earlier, you want to be able to define that balance between the cost of applying and how much you actually want to go there. But it's not really restricted to 10 colleges or universities. I know counselors normally recommend around that much, but most people I feel apply for way more than that. And I also know people that apply for 2 schools. It all depends on you and what colleges you think that you really want to attend. So narrowing down colleges is difficult as there are many good options and also many colleges that are similar in nature. So you want to be able to find those distinguishing factors between a college that you're going to apply to and a college that you're not going to apply to. Because there are many colleges that go for the same type of environment and the same type of goal in the way they educate their students. And so you want to be able to set those boundaries as to what about one school you like more than the other school in order to narrow down these choices. As I've been touching upon throughout this entire workshop, it's important to do thorough research on every college you're even slightly interested in, because you may be slightly interested in it, and then after you do research, you become majorly interested in it and you really want to go there. I know that happened to me with a couple of schools. I didn't think that I would be interested in them at first, but after going to information sessions and going to virtual tours, they became one of my top choices. And I also know schools that I thought I would be interested in, and after doing research, I realized that they're really not for me. And so I ended up not applying to those schools. So while most students do this research the summer before senior year, I recommend doing this even earlier, summer before junior year and the entirety of junior year, as I touched upon in my timeline. So research takes a long time. If you really want to get to know a school, you have to put in the time and effort to do so. So every school has their own website, and you'll realize that the website is not just one page. There's tabs everywhere that you can click on. There's multiple aspects that you can research and that you can explore. And so if you really want to get to know a school and to see if you're a good fit for that school, you want to be clicking on those tabs and you want to be reading everything on their site to see if this school is truly right for you. So students who do the research process the summer before senior year spend the entire summer doing so. So once they narrow down their colleges, they spend 3 to 4 months in senior year filling out all of their applications and writing their essays. And 3 to 4 months is not a long time, especially with the workload that senior year puts on you. I know that my senior year classes are much more difficult than any classes that I've taken earlier, and it's really difficult to maintain a good GPA and good grades while balancing everything that encompasses senior year, including senior events. Senior events start early within the year because we're senior year, it's something to celebrate. College applications, extracurriculars. I know that I have a job that I have to work at like 15 hours a week. So it's really important that you start earlier and you plan ahead, because as I'm reiterating throughout this workshop, everything will catch up to you if you don't start early. Step 2, organizing schools. So A, B, and C schools, otherwise known as Reach, Target, and Safe. So Reach schools, these are the schools that you know you have an extremely small chance of getting into just because of the competitive nature and low acceptance rates. So schools like the Ivy League, like the UC schools, every student applying for these schools are very qualified, and they may have a very similar application to yours. So you want to understand that these are your Reach schools and that you try your best, and if you don't get in, it's because of the competitive nature and of the overall low acceptance rates. Target schools are schools that just about your level, just right for you, and you have a good chance of getting in, but it is by no means definite. So with target schools as well, they are at your level, but they may be at the level of many other students. So it's also very competitive. And you definitely have a better chance of getting in target schools than Reach schools. But if you don't get in, it's also okay because of the competitive nature. Safe schools. These are schools that you're positive you will get into. An example may be your state schools. State schools obviously accept most people from their state, and they accept a significantly larger amount of in-state students. So these will definitely be your safe schools because you know you will get in. So you want to evaluate what your Reach, Target, and Safe schools are. So I've linked two websites here that may be slightly helpful in helping to evaluate it. It is by no means a definitive conclusion as to what's what and your chance of getting in, but it may be helpful to kind of define parameters. So the first one is College Find, their admissions calculator. It's important to know that these calculators are most definitely not reliable when it comes to your actual admissions decision, because usually they only ask for your stats, and that is not at all what is considered in full within your college application. Most college review processes are very holistic, so obviously the college admissions counselor will not be accurate at all, but they will definitely give you a feel as to what your reach, target, and safety schools are. Evaluating those boundaries between those three subsets of schools is definitely through the more technical aspects of the application, because of course nothing is going to be able to evaluate your essays or like your recommendation letters without the presence of an actual admissions officer and an actual human being. But an admissions counselor will definitely give you a good idea. The second one is Prep Scholar. So Prep Scholar is a great resource to get information on the general statistics of students that are accepted into a certain college. So if you just type school of interest and then Prep Scholar after, the first link will probably be a link to Prep Scholar's article on that school, and it'll definitely tell you how, like, if it's competitive, if it's not competitive, acceptance rates, everything like that, everything you need to know about the acceptances of the college and the students, what the students are like that get accepted to that college. They also have an admissions counselor, but it only takes into account SAT scores and GPAs, so take the result with a grain of salt. Admissions counselors, as I mentioned before, definitely take what they say as a grain of salt, but they're definitely useful in defining parameters for your reach, target, and safe schools. So, using myself as an example, I applied to 16 schools. I don't believe they're all listed here, but most of them are. So the reach schools I applied to were Johns Hopkins, UPenn, Dartmouth, Georgetown, Amherst, Vanderbilt, UPitt, Duke, and WashU at St. Louis. My target schools were Emory, UMich, UNC, Boston University, and Northeastern, and my safe schools were Rutgers and TCNJ. So my reasoning for why these schools are put into the categories they are put into. So Johns Hopkins, UPenn, Dartmouth, Georgetown, Amherst, Vanderbilt, Duke, and WashU at St. Louis, they are all reach schools. And this is because these are all top 20 schools, and they have extremely low acceptance rates. So of course they are going to be reach schools due to the competitive nature. Many of these, or two of these, are Ivy Leagues, so we know that they're reaches. And I'm also applying to Cornell. That is not listed here because it was added later in time, but I'm applying to Cornell, and that is also an Ivy and of course a reach school. I separate out UPitt because it's a special case. While UPitt would normally be a safe school, I am actually already accepted into the regular UPitt school. I am applying with the intention of attending their University of Pittsburgh School of Medicine Guaranteed Admission Program. And this is an extremely difficult program to get into because you will go through UPitt and then directly be going to their med school, which is a very good medical school. So this program has an acceptance rate of around 1%, which is lower than most of the reach schools that I have, or if not all of them. So as I said, the UPitt School of Medicine is a very good medical school, a T20 medical school. So that's why UPitt is actually in my reach section. Emory, UMich, UNC at Chapel Hill, and Northeastern. So these are my target schools. And a general rule for evaluating target schools is if your chance of getting in is around 20% to 80%. And I know that that is a very broad spectrum, but if you kind of fall somewhere within the middle of there, it'll probably be one of your target schools. So how do you determine this? Well, as I've been mentioning, you won't actually know because obviously no one's read your application, so you have no idea of your percentage of getting in. But this is where admissions calculators definitely come in. As I said, they will definitely give you a general idea of where you are in terms of admission to a specific school. Obviously, what admissions calculators say are not accurate at all, but the general idea is there, and you need that to evaluate these schools. The schools above are great schools, and some are even my top choices, and I have somewhat of a good chance of getting in them. So Rutgers and the College of New Jersey, TCNJ. So I don't think I mentioned this earlier, but I am a resident of New Jersey. I'm from New Jersey. So Rutgers University and TCNJ are my state schools, and I will get into these schools because I'm an in-state student, and I have the best chance of getting scholarships here as well because of the fact that I'm an in-state student. However, there's an asterisk next to TCNJ because I am applying to TCNJ with the intention of attending their 7-year medical program under their Department of Biology. The acceptance rate is around 10%, which is around a REACH school kind of acceptance. And so TCNJ may not be a safe school, but TCNJ in itself without the program is definitely a safe school. Step 3, determining early action, early decision, or regular decision. So what are these? ED, early decision, it is a binding decision. So you may only apply to one early decision school. If you do at all, you don't have to if you don't want to. Because essentially if you're accepted early decision, you must attend that school. So let's say you apply early decision to a school and you apply early action to a couple other schools. If you get into that ED school, you will have to rescind all of your other applications because by applying ED, you're essentially saying that this is my top choice school by far, and if I get in, there's no way I would attend anywhere else. And this is a very strict decision. And so on the Common App, if you do intend to apply early decision to a school, you actually have to have a parent sign an early decision waiver for you, as well as your counselor. So this is a very big decision and something definitely to think very carefully about. Early action. EA. You apply early to these schools only to receive your acceptance results at an earlier date. This is not a binding decision, and you may still attend other schools even if you are accepted. Sometimes early action will increase your chance of getting into a certain school because it kind of shows your interest within that school and your willingness to apply earlier just to see if you're able to get in. Your willingness to fill their application earlier, spend more time on it. So yes, it will sometimes increase your chances, but it is not binding, and most of the time, the only point of applying early action is to find your acceptance results earlier. I know many people in my school apply early action for schools because they just wanted to get it out of the way, and that may also be another factor. Regular decision RD, you apply at the regular time that these applications are due, which is usually around late December, early January, and you will receive your results around spring of the next year. So that's really carried on because early action schools, their results come around December or January, so it's much earlier. So I wanted to talk about the advantages and disadvantages of ED because, as I said, it is a very important decision to make and something that you must think about carefully. So the advantages. If a school is your top choice and you're absolutely set on attending that school, ED will increase your chances of being accepted significantly. So for example, I am early decisioning to Dartmouth College, and the regular decision acceptance rate is 6.9%, which is extremely low, and I think that I would have absolutely no chance if I applied RD. But the early decision acceptance rate is 21.2%, which is around the level of a target school. So the chance of getting in is increased by almost 15%. And I say the level of a target school, but it isn't actually because, of course, all of the people who are applying ED are very qualified, extremely qualified for an Ivy. And so it's still very difficult to get into, but the fact that applying ED increased my chances by 15% is something that I'm willing to do because Dartmouth is my top choice college and I'm set on attending the school. So why is this the case? Well, the school knows that you're going to attend their school, so they have more of a reason to accept you. A big thing with colleges is they want to have a high percentage of students that are accepted attend the school. So if you're applying ED, they know that you're going to attend the school, and it'll make their school look better because it shows that students want to attend and the school is their top choice. So ED is definitely an advantage if you want to have a greater chance of getting into a school that you're absolutely set on attending. And that is something that's very important. You have to make sure that it's your number one school and there's no other school that you would want to attend if you got into the school. So you want to have no doubts about the school. So disadvantages. Because you're binded to attending the school, that automatically means you will have to pay the full tuition to the school unless you qualify for financial aid. For Dartmouth, that's around $350K for a 4-year college education, which is insane. And for someone like me who is applying to medical school on top of that, it's a lot of money. And there are many times where because an early decision school did not provide enough financial aid to a student, they will break their binding agreement. And this will cause a lot of problems for students in subsequent years within your school. There's this thing where if students do break their binding agreement, their high school will be blacklisted by the college, which essentially means that the college will not be accepting any students from that student's high school in subsequent years for around 1 to 2 years. So you'll definitely be affecting other students that attend your high school after you. So you really want to make sure that you have the money to pay for whatever financial aid does not provide. Step 4, considering financial aid and merit-based aid. So, as I've touched upon, college is expensive, and it's extremely important to find a balance between how much you really want to attend a college and how much it costs. Generally, the more you want to attend a college, the more expensive it's going to be, and that's just how it works. State schools are a great option, and they will give you an access to a great education with lower prices simply because you're a resident of a specific state. So you definitely want to consider state schools because they are great. Financial aid and merit-based resources are also something every prospective college student should look into to save some money throughout their preliminary 4 years of in college. So the FAFSA. One of the first things you should be doing while researching colleges is searching for financial aid resources. If you want to seek financial aid, you must fill out the free application for federal student aid, also known as the FAFSA. I'm sure most of us have heard of it because most students fill this out. And this is the form you need to fill out to get any financial aid from the federal government to help pay for college. Most states and colleges use the FAFSA to determine which students get financial aid as well as how much they'll get. I personally did not fill out the FAFSA, but I believe that you fill out your tax brackets or something along those lines, and they will determine how much financial aid you will be able to receive based upon that. There are 3 ways to fill this out. First, you can fill it out online at ed.gov with the My Student Aid app, which is available on iTunes or Google Play, and or printing and filling out a FAFSA form and then mailing it to the address on the form. The thing with mailing is that I definitely recommend this option the least just because it's very common for things to get lost in the mail, and if you're seriously considering financial aid, you definitely do not want your FAFSA to get lost in the mail. Another thing is QuestBridge. So this is for high achieving low income students. That's kind of their motto. So students who participate in the QuestBridge National College Match have a chance at receiving early admission to a college of their choice within QuestBridge's 45 college partners with a full scholarship. So there are many steps to this, but students must complete a free online application due on September 28th, rank up to 12 QuestBridge college partners to apply to by October 14th. Around 6,000 students are chosen as National College Match finalists, and they will be notified about that on October 19th. Finalists submit match requirements by November 1st, and then finalists find out on December 1st if they matched with their ranked colleges. And these students will receive early admission with a full 4-year scholarship. If students are not matched, they still have the option to submit the QuestBridge regular decision, and then the form to be considered for admission to additional college partners is due by December 12th. So that was a lot of words, but that's essentially how QuestBridge works. And it's a great way for low-income students to have a chance to have a full 4-year scholarship to a college of their choice. So merit-based aid or scholarships. So merit-based aid is usually a bit more simple to apply for. If you're applying through the Common App or Coalition app, merit-based aid will most likely show up as a part of the application as something that is optional to fill out. So it will be shown directly when you're applying for a college in the questions portion of the Common App, and it'll ask you if you're interested in a specific merit scholarship. Of course, you want to make sure to do thorough research on how different scholarships work, as some may have more requirements than others, which include additional essays, interviews, or even both. So it's important to evaluate your limits and how much of a workload you can handle, and you also want to be able to maintain a balance. Scholarships are very important, of course, but getting into a college is more important. So you want to be focusing on your actual college application rather than the requirements for a scholarship to a specific school. Of course, you want to make sure so that you are able to balance both. But if you aren't able to, then you definitely want to give up the scholarship. There's also merit-based aid that is not particularly affiliated with the school. And a prime example of this is the Robertson Scholars Leadership Program, which is a program that I am applying to. And this scholarship does not show up on the Common App or Coalition app by itself, and it comes about by research. So this is why research is very, very important. If you do research, you will be able to find scholarships and kind of the inside scoop on different things that may be helpful to the amount of money you're paying to attend a certain college. Obviously, the Robertson Scholars Leadership Program is just one example, but if you really go into the website of a certain school, you will be able to find many different options that students who may not do as much research will not be able to find. Students who plan to, so for the Robertson Scholars Leadership Program, it's for students who plan to apply to UNC, Chapel Hill, or Duke University. They're eligible to apply and receive 8 semesters of full tuition. UNC and, Duke especially, is a very expensive school. And so to receive 8 semesters of full tuition is amazing. And is definitely something that you want to heavily consider if you're applying to either of these schools. A link to informational webinars to learn more about the program from alumni and current scholars is available on the official Robertson Scholars website, which is just robertsonscholars.org. If you just search Robertson Scholars Program, Leadership Program in Google, it will definitely come up as one of the first links. So that's pretty much it from me. I touched upon almost all of the parts of the college application process and the college selection process. If you have any questions for me, you can just reach me at the email the email address that will be sent in the Zoom chat. Since I'm fortunately not able to attend this workshop live, I'm unable to answer any questions live, but if you have any questions, feel free to reach out and I will get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you.